Okay, so let's look at the cellular anatomy of the nervous system in a bit more detail. Now this is a very basic animation, but it's a free one and it's available on Biodigital Anatomy, and it just gives you a nice visual overview of the basic anatomy of a neuron and how an action potential is carried from one cell here at the top to these two cells. That's this flash of white light represents the action potential, or the nerve impulse as it's sometimes known. Now in reality we have one cell that is connected with two other cells, but in reality this single cell would form a connection with anywhere up to 1,000 other cells. So again, this goes to show you the complexity of information that's being passed around your nervous system, but that would create a very complicated image here, so we have just got the two at the bottom. So I think of a basic neuron structure as being like a tree. So at the top here we have the branches of the tree which come down to the trunk and then all the way down to the roots of the tree, and that is the direction that this action potential travels from top to bottom. It's always in that direction. So the branches on our cell are known as dendrites. See if I can bring those a bit nearer. These are our dendrites. Again, there would be many more of these in reality, but where the dendrites meet is known as the cell body, and this contains the nucleus and various other cellular structures. The trunk of our cell is known as the axon, and the axon is insulated to prevent the action potential from being lost or being released, and to help that information be communicated from one end of the cell to the other. And these blue coloured objects here are themselves individual cells, so these would be considered glial cells, and there are many different types of glial cells, and these are Schwann cells, not swan, that's Schwann, S-C-H-W-A-N-N, Schwann cells. The gaps in between the Schwann cells, you don't really need to know this, but I like saying it, are known as the nodes of Ranvier. The nodes of Ranvier. It sounds like something out of Harry Potter, doesn't it? Anyway, once we leave the axon, we come to the axon terminal, so the end of the axon, and these bulbous structures here at the end of our axon are known as the synaptic end bulb. And these bulbs don't quite touch. Here they're shown as touching. You see the dendrite of another cell, so that's not quite true. They don't quite touch. There is a gap in between, and that gap is known as a synapse. So this is where the electrical information or the electrical current that's being transmitted down the cell is turned into a chemical signal in the form of neurotransmitters. So neurotransmitters are released, and then that creates a action potential in the next cell, and so on and so on and so on. Okay, so that's just a basic introduction to cellular structure and action potentials. I hope that was useful.